Hello and welcome to Summer Games 2, a semi-sequel to Summer Games. Uh, sort of. If you play this game, you can choose to have Summer Game 1 events in this game as well. Assuming, of course, that you have Summer Games. It is not included in Summer Games 2, you would have to have both games, but you can play them as one quite large Olympic game. Which personally I find jarring because the graphical difference between the two versions, but also it tells me that Summer Games 1 and Summer Games 2 should have been one game. Was it out of restraints? Was it because they want to double check if the concept worked? I don't know. It could have been good old-fashioned trying to milk the audience. But regardless, it's not for me to judge. Outside of the game, of course. In Summer Games 2, we start with Triple Jump, which is an interesting little event where you have to do 2 skips and 1 final jump. And unlike real Olympic triple jumpers, it's very, very obnoxious to try and get any long distances on your jumps. There's a timing aspect involved in how long you push right to do skips and then left finally to do your jump, but we are talking microseconds difference, so it is very, very hard, even with several hours of practice, to work out what exactly the proper timing is. Onwards, rowing. From this game on, all games had some sort of rhythm gameplay, and in the case of Summer Games 2, this rowing. Not exactly the most exciting thing, but something to mention is that when you do these rhythm games, and it doesn't matter which ones, which events they are in whatever game they belong to, it is imperative that you make sure to move the joystick fully left and fully right, or you will lose power and you will lose speed, and in certain cases your athletes will not perform what you expect them to perform, costing you valuable time, and of course time means that you lose speed. So it's something to be mindful of. Next up, Javelin throw. Hammer the fire button and then put the joystick left and hope that your angle is correct. There's no indication of angle of any kind, you just have to basically get a feel for it. Something that is very, very common for this game and this game series in general. Experience counts for an awful lot. I said in the first video that I would probably mention this in every video, and I may as well mention it now. The entire game series are definitely perfectly playable as single-player games, but they need to be played with other people in order to obtain maximum enjoyment. So if this looks a bit meh, I can tell you that it feels a bit meh when you're playing by yourself. But play against 2-3 other people and the excitement level definitely increases. I'm fairly sure that's a decent throw. I'll take it. Next up, a question. And why they decided to add this stupid event to this game, I don't know, but I think they ran out of ideas and just started trying out random ideas. You control the speed of your horse and that's about it, and then the computer takes over the jumping, assuming your speed is correct. And sometimes your horse will just stop. This event is just tedious, boring, obnoxious, frustrating, and being disqualified is something you easily obtain. You do that by getting 100 faults, by the way, and that is easily done, and definitely not a high-class event. Yep, and it's high jump. In theory, a great event, high jumping. I mean, it's one of those Olympic events that are, some people at least, very interesting to watch, but the execution of this specific event is rather obnoxious, because in order to run up to where you're supposed to jump, you are tapping your joystick right, but you also need to move up at the same time to get closer to your jump point. Then you press a fire button to jump, and once you have jumped, you're supposed to press up to clear the bar. And the timing is extremely finicky and extremely obnoxious, and I just suck at this event. And you know what? I don't care. I think this is, from a gameplay wise, possibly the weakest event in the entire, or at least for the Summer Games series. Not a fan of this one. I suppose the question is probably worse, but there's bound to be people out there that love it, and there's bound to be people who can clear 2 meters and 30 in this event. And good on you. I can't. I suck at it. Next up, fencing. A good idea until you play 8 players and you have to do elimination rounds. You have several different moves and parries and thrusts and all sorts of things, and it's all fine and dandy, except for the fact that if you and your opponent hit yourself, well, you want to hit yourself after a while. If you and your opponent hit each other at the same time, the double hits will nullify each other, meaning that scoring can take an extraordinary amount of time. I am not kidding you, I cut out 5 minutes of gameplay in order to get to this point. The 8 players having to play elimination matches, this can take quite a while. Not brilliantly implemented. Cycling. Well, instead of waggling your joystick from side to side, you now have to rotate your joystick. And the timing, I mean, there's an arrow that indicates where you need your start point to be from in order to complete the rotation. And as you increase speed, you have to make sure the rotation speed is quicker and quicker and quicker as well. But if you fall out of rhythm, it can be obnoxiously difficult to find the rhythm again. And because of course you've psyched yourself up to moving faster and faster and faster, but you need to slow down and get the rotational rhythm up to speed again. And this is the reason why this performance is rather poor, because I just did not feel, I did not find, I should rather say, the patience to look for the correct tempo in order to rotate the stick. So, well, another event I suck at. I'll live. And finally, it's over. And finally, kayaking. White water kayaking. Basically, you sail in a canoe and you have to get through different gates within, well, you're timed and scored based on how you proceed through the gates. You are penalized for getting through them the wrong way. Most of them are straight, but some you have to reverse through, and others you have to get through by going around them and get through them from the opposite side. This is something that you will get used to as you play the game. The controls can be a bit wonky because you basically want to tap your joystick in order to steer. You can hold the joystick, but you want to make sure that you are more accurate in your movement of the canoe. So Personally, I've always found that tapping the joystick a bit of time is more practical. An enjoyable little event, but considering it takes over 2 minutes, 3 minutes even, it's another one of those events that can take quite a long time if you have multiple people playing. And yet again, playing by myself, I have managed to beat myself. I am so blessed. Please notice there's only 6 medals awarded, and that is because you don't get a medal for being disqualified in the question. So, this game contains a closing ceremony, which is what basically showcases that this is definitely inspired by the Los Angeles Olympics, because a man in a jetpack actually landed at the end of the 1984 Olympics. So that gives me a chance to talk about the game. The graphical update between 1 and 2 should be rather obvious. The different events have different jingles, tunes, whatever you call them, which are very enjoyable and of a decent quality. Overall, I find some of the events to be rather tedious compared to the first game. It is definitely a technically better game than the first game, but personally I think from a gameplay point of view that Summer Games is actually the better game. Add to the fact that Summer Games 1 and Summer Games 2 should technically have been one game. Sort of leaves a bit odd taste. If you play this game and you play with other people and you play with Summer Games 1 events, it can be a rather long experience with definitely plenty of entertainment for a group of people. But overall though, Summer Games and Summer Games 2 are definitely classics in their own rights. Other companies try to mimic these games and failed flat on their faces. Yes, looking at you, Tynesoft. I had prepared both winter games and war games, but unfortunately my bird is now waking up, so I can no longer do any voiceover. So they will have to be postponed until tomorrow. So on that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time. Bye bye for now.